welcome back. Or if you're just joining, my name is Maya, and welcome to my channel, Cranleyplace, where I'm focused on Hermès scarf style, inspiration, and more. Before we get started, let me give a shout out to all the channel members, and special welcome to the knot connoisseurs and elegant insiders. I appreciate your ongoing support. If you haven't seen the membership options, please do check them out. In this video, I'll review a 90 centimeter silk twill from Hermès' Spring-Summer 2026 season called City of Light by Elias Kafouros. We'll take a look at the artist's background, the design inspiration and visual architecture, and then a collector's ranking of available colorways and why. Let's get started. Kafouros is a Greek illustrator whose work often blends meticulous draftsmanship with a strong sense of geometry and rhythm. Before working with Hermès, he built a reputation through editorial illustration and printmaking, and that background clearly shows in the precision of his line work. His drawings often feel architectural, carefully structured but also energetic, almost as if the composition itself is alive. Within the Hermès universe, Kafouros represents a generation of artists who bring a more graphic, urban sensibility to the carré. Traditional Hermès scarf illustration has long drawn inspiration from equestrian life, travel, and decorative arts. What Kafouros does is expand that vocabulary into the built environment, into cities, streets, and the rhythm of urban space. City of Light is perhaps the clearest expression of that approach. Rather than focusing on objects or symbols, the design celebrates the atmosphere of a city itself. The title, of course, immediately evokes Paris, long known as La Ville Lumière, the City of Light, but the scarf doesn't depict one literal monument. Instead, it captures the spirit of a city illuminated by culture, movement, and imagination. This is something Hermès does particularly well, commissioning artists who interpret themes through their own visual language rather than simply reproducing familiar icons. In that sense, City of Light feels very contemporary. It honors the cultural mythology of Paris while presenting it through a graphic, almost cinematic lens. For collectors, that makes the design interesting because it sits between two traditions, the storytelling heritage of the Hermès carré and a modern, illustration-driven aesthetic that feels fresh without being trendy. When you first encounter City of Light, the overall effect is almost kaleidoscopic. A dense mosaic of rooftops, staircases, windows, and architectural forms layered across the silk. But the longer you study the design, the more its structure begins to reveal itself. The composition is not random at all. Kafouros has carefully organized the architecture so that the eye moves continuously across the scarf. Rather than depicting specific monuments, the design evokes the atmosphere of a historic European city, something that inevitably recalls Paris, often called the City of Light. Yet none of the landmarks are literal. Instead, he creates an imagined city where rooftops and facades interlocked in shifting layers of perspective. One of the most interesting aspects of the composition only becomes apparent when the scarf is actually worn. When the carré is folded diagonally, the way many people tie a 90 centimeter, the architecture begins to align in what feels like a continuous avenue running across the silk. Buildings that seem scattered when the scarf is flat suddenly organize themselves into a directional corridor, guiding the eye from one corner to the other. Kafouros also creates rhythm through the rooftops. Across the design, he alternates between triangular roofs, arches, and terraces. These repeating shapes form a kind of skyline pattern that moves across the scarf, giving the city a sense of vertical energy. These tiny variations give the architecture a quiet sense of life, suggesting a populated city without ever showing people. And finally, the outer edges of the design are structured very thoughtfully. Instead of a traditional border, the buildings near the edges become slightly larger and more open. These shapes act almost like a frame, helping the composition remain balanced even when the scarf is folded or draped. What makes this design particularly successful as an Hermès carré is that it doesn't just sit on the silk, it transforms as the scarf is worn. There are at least 6 colorways that you can find online, all of which offer interesting interpretations of the design's architectural energy. So starting with the Ardoise Blanc and Rouge H. This palette sits closest to classic Hermès color language. Graphic, confident, and unmistakably Hermès. In daylight, the contrast between the slate and white becomes crisp and architectural, while indoors, the Rouge H warms the palette and adds depth. Collector appeal for this one is very strong. This one is timeless with bold clarity because of the strong contrast and iconic red accent, and the design stays legible even when folded tightly. Next, the Bleu Glacier, Khaki, and Beige, a beautifully restrained, neutral interpretation. This one feels sophisticated and calm. In daylight, that pale blue and beige feel airy and architectural, while indoors, the khaki tones add warmth and structure. This one for collectors is excellent for everyday wear. Feeling quietly timeless, this one is arguably the most versatile wardrobe piece among the options. Next, we have the Bleu Jaune, Rose, and Vert Veronese. This one is a lively palette that still feels balanced. Its mood is creative and playful without becoming loud. In daylight, the green becomes vibrant and energetic, while indoors, the rose tones soften the composition. This one will be strong among collectors who appreciate nuanced color combinations. Consider it a modern classic, walking a nice line between energy and usability. The Rose, Violet, and Multicolor is the most artistic palette in the lineup. Feeling expressive and imaginative, in daylight the multicolored elements create a lively mosaic effect, while indoors the violet tones deepen and give the design a slightly romantic atmosphere. This one will be strong for collectors who enjoy statement scarves. From a stylistic perspective, I'd also consider this one fashion-forward because the palette contains more varied hues, and therefore it becomes slightly less predictable when folded, which lowers versatility, but still it's visually captivating. The Orange, Pétrole, and Vieux Rose, a warm, atmospheric interpretation. This one's mood is rich and dramatic, with that orange in daylight glowing beautifully against the darker petrol tones. Indoors, this palette is going to deepen and become moodier. For collectors, this one will be particularly appealing to experienced ones who enjoy saturated palettes. Bold but refined, the warmth of this palette can make it slightly seasonal depending on styling. Next we have the Jaune, Celadon, and Rose, the lightest and most delicate palette. This one feels fresh and optimistic. In daylight, that yellow and celadon will feel luminous and spring-like, while indoors the palette softens considerably. This, of course, will be attractive for lighter wardrobes and seasonal wear. It feels airy and youthful, but because the tones are very light, the design can lose a bit of definition when folded. Overall, City of Light captures something essential about the Hermès carré, the ability to turn an idea, in this case, the spirit of a great city, into a wearable piece of visual storytelling. Through Kafouros' architectural imagination, the scarf becomes a miniature metropolis of color and movement. Every fold reveals a new perspective, just as every street corner in a historic city offers a new view. For collectors, that sense of discovery is part of the appeal. And with a palette that ranges from bold, graphic contrast to airy pastel tones, there's a version of City of Light that can speak to almost any style sensibility. So there you have it. More on this design from Hermès' Spring-Summer 2026 collection. Please like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments. In future episodes, I'll share other scarf reviews, inspiration, and more, so be sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified of new videos. Thanks again for joining me today. Until next time!